Before we dive into this tutorial, have you ever noticed how much you rely on the sidebar? Whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or any other website you visit regularly, the sidebar is always there, quietly playing a big role in your browsing experience. From admin dashboards to e-commerce websites and social media platforms, the sidebar is an unsung hero of your online journey. So what makes a sidebar stand out? It should have toggle functionality, easy navigation, and be responsive. But how can we incorporate these functionalities for the sidebar? This is CodzSword, and in this video we will learn how to create a sidebar using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that meets all these requirements and enhances the overall user experience on your website or application. This sidebar will have toggle functionality to adjust its width, easy navigation with smooth hover effects and drop-down functionality, and a responsive design to ensure it looks great on every device. So let's get started. In order to enhance the user experience, we need to add styles to our website. First, we will create a style.css file in the current directory and link it before the head tag in our HTML file. Additionally, we will need JavaScript for the sidebar toggle and drop-down functionality. We'll create a script.js file and include it before the closing body tag in our HTML. Furthermore, we need icons for our sidebar, whether it's for the toggle button or navigation links. FontAwesome is our tool of choice, offering a wide array of free icons that are simple to implement. To begin, sign up for FontAwesome and obtain your FontAwesome kit. This kit should be added before the head tag in our HTML file. Once these steps are completed, we'll be ready to proceed. We'll create the HTML structure. We start by creating a div with the class container. This div will wrap around the sidebar and main content section. For the sidebar component, we'll use the HTML aside tag with an ID of sidebar. Inside this aside tag, we will create a div with the class sidebar widget, which will contain the toggle button and the main logo. To implement the toggle functionality for the sidebar, we'll create a button with the class toggle btn and specify its type as button. The toggle button will have an icon representing the toggle functionality. We will use the staggered bar icon from FontAwesome and place it within the button. Following this, we will create a div with the class sidebar logo and place an anchor tag within it to represent our logo. If desired, you can use your own logo image here. With this, we've completed the HTML structure for toggling the sidebar and logo. Alright, now let's start creating the HTML structure for our sidebar navigation. We will begin by creating an unordered list with the class sidebar nav that will contain all the sidebar navigation links. Each navigation item will be represented by an li tag with the class sidebar item. Inside this list item, we will place an anchor tag with the class sidebar link. Within our sidebar link, we will include an icon. We will use the user icon from FontAwesome and add it within the anchor tag. Additionally, within the anchor tag, we will include a span tag to provide a label for the sidebar link. To add an additional sidebar navigation link, we can simply duplicate this HTML structure within the unordered list. We only need to change the icon and the content inside the span tag. Everything else will remain the same. Now that you understand how to create simple navigation links, let's discuss how to create a navigation link with a drop-down. To do this, we will create an li element with the class sidebar item. Inside this li element, we will place an anchor tag with the class sidebar link. To create the drop-down, we will add the class has drop-down to the anchor tag. Similarly, for the navigation link, we will use an icon from FontAwesome. Also, within the anchor tag, we will include a span tag for the label. Our sidebar navigation submenu will be wrapped inside a UL element with the class sidebar dropdown. We will create navigation links using list items with the class sidebar item. Within these list items, we can add multiple links using anchor tags with the class sidebar link. For now, I will only add links for the login and register pages. Now that we have created a sidebar navigation link with a dropdown, we can create multiple navigation links with dropdowns in a similar way. For now, I will simply copy and paste the navigation link with the dropdown that we just created. I will then change its icon and label. Similarly, I will change the label for the submenus. Now that we've created the sidebar navigation menu with dropdowns, we will add some simple navigation items to our sidebar. We'll start by copying and pasting the list item, and then we'll only need to change the icon and the content inside the span tag. You can add multiple navigation items with or without dropdowns. For now, I'll just add 2 simple navigation items. Our sidebar navigation is now complete. Moving forward, we will be adding the logout link at the bottom of the sidebar. To do this, we will create a div element with the class sidebar footer and an anchor tag with the class sidebar link. For the icon, we will get a suitable icon for the logout link and add it within the anchor tag. Finally, we will add the text for the logout link within a span tag. With this, we have completed the HTML structure for our sidebar. In this tutorial, our main goal is to create a sidebar. However, while creating the sidebar, we also need to plan for the main dashboard section. To start, we will create a div with the class main for the dashboard section. Inside this div, we'll create another div with the class content, which will contain all the other components for the main dashboard. For now, we will simply add an h1 element as the main content for the dashboard. With this, we have completed the HTML for our sidebar. To begin with our CSS, we'll start by incorporating Google Fonts for typography. Google Fonts provides a wide range of font options. For this project, we'll use the Poppins font. We'll copy its embed code and paste it into our style.css file. Next, let's apply some global styles using the universal selector and pseudo elements. We'll set the box sizing property to border box and set the margin and padding to 0. These styles will help prevent unexpected margins, padding, and sizing issues. And to improve the appearance of links and list items, we'll make a few adjustments. We'll remove the default underline from anchor text by setting text decoration to none. Similarly, we'll remove the default bullet points from list items by setting list style to none. After that, we'll apply the Poppins font to the entire web page by selecting the body tag and assigning the font family property to Poppins. With these initial CSS setups complete, we can now proceed to styling the sidebar. First, we will target the main wrapper, which encloses both the sidebar and the main content section. We will set its display property to flex, enabling the flexbox layout model. This will align the child elements horizontally in a row. Similarly, we will target the element with the class main. We will set its minimum height to 100 VH to ensure the content covers the entire screen height. Likewise, we will set its width to 100%. We will set overflow to hidden, which ensures that any content exceeding the boundaries of the main element will not be visible. Additionally, we will set a light background color. We will center align the text within our main content area using the text align center property. Next, we'll style our sidebar by setting its display to flex and aligning its child elements in a column layout. We'll ensure the sidebar has a consistent width of 70 px and won't shrink below this size. We'll also set a z-index of 1000 to keep it above other elements. To add a smooth animation effect when properties change, we'll apply a transition of 0.25 seconds. Lastly, we'll give it a sleek, dark black background color for a modern look. Once we have completed the basic styling for our sidebar, the next step is to implement the sidebar toggle functionality using JavaScript. We will start by creating a constant variable called hamburger. This variable will be used to store the button element with the class toggleBTN using the document.querySelector method. Following that, we will add an event listener to the hamburger variable. This event listener will trigger a specific function when the user clicks the toggle button. Inside this function, we will utilize the document.querySelector method again to select the element with the ID sidebar. We will then apply the JavaScript toggle method to add or remove the expand class from the selected element. This will effectively implement the sidebar toggle functionality. Now in our browser, we can see that when we click the button, the aside element with the sidebar will toggle the class expand. In CSS, we can select the element with the ID sidebar when the expand class is added to it. This means that when the expand class is attached to the ID sidebar, we will simply set its width and mean width to 300px. With this, we have successfully implemented the sidebar toggle functionality using CSS and JavaScript. After implementing the sidebar toggle functionality, we will style the element with the class sidebar widget, which contains the logo and toggle button. We will use the display flex property to align the child elements horizontally. Additionally, we will apply a semi-transparent light gray background color to this element. We will now style the sidebar toggle button. First, we will set its background color to transparent, the cursor to pointer, and remove its default border. The padding on the top and bottom will be 1 rem, and on the left and right will be 1.5 rem. Next, we will select the icon within the toggle button and set its font size to 1.5 rem and color to white. To vertically center align our sidebar logo within the sidebar widget, we will set its margin on the top and bottom to auto, and on the left and right to 0. We will also ensure that the sidebar logo has a white color, a font size of 1.15 rem, and a font weight of 800 to give it a bold and prominent appearance. Now, to hide certain elements within the sidebar when it is in a collapsed state, we can use the .css pseudo-class. We will target the element with the class sidebar logo when the sidebar's ID does not have the class expand. Similarly, for the span tag within the anchor tag with the class sidebar link, which acts as a label, we will simply hide it when the sidebar is in a collapsed state. In the collapsed state of our sidebar, both the logo and the navigation label are hidden. Next, we will style the element with the class sidebar nav. We will set padding on all sides to 0 and set the flex property to 1:1 auto, which allows the navbar to adjust its size to fit the available space while keeping its initial size as the base. Moving on to the sidebar link, we'll set the padding to 0.625 rem for the top and bottom and 1.625 rem for the left and right. The link's color will be white and its display will be set to block. The font weight will also be set to 700. To ensure that the link's text stays on a single line without wrapping, we will set whitespace to no wrap. Lastly, we will add a left border of 3px solid transparent. Likewise, we will style the icon within the sidebar link. The icon size will be 1.1 rem, and it will be positioned with a right margin of 0.75 rem. In our sidebar, the list items will have their position set to relative, with a margin of 5px at the top and bottom, and 0 margin on the left and right. The sidebar navigation includes drop-down links that are initially hidden and only become visible when the user clicks on a drop-down link. To achieve this, we will set the opacity to 0 and the max height to 0, causing it to collapse. Overflow will be set to hidden, padding on all sides will be 0, and the width will be 100%. To create smooth transitions when the drop-down is shown or hidden, we will define a transition property for the opacity over 200 milliseconds with a linear timing, and we will also define a transition property for the max height. Additionally, we will define both the opacity and max height properties in the will change property to inform the browser that these properties would change. To hide our drop-down menu, we now need JavaScript to toggle the drop-down link. First, we will create a constant variable named items. We will then use the document.querySelectOrAll method to select all elements with the class as dropdown. Next, we will create a function named toggle to control the toggling behavior of the drop-down menus. Within this function, we will create a constant variable named item toggle. We then need to check whether the specific drop-down menu is already visible or not. To do this, we will use the JavaScript this keyword and the class list.contains method to check for the active class. The contains method will return true or false, which will be stored in the item toggle variable. To ensure that only one drop-down menu is visible at a time, we can use a for loop with the initialization set to 0. The loop will continue until it reaches the total number of items, at which point it will stop. To remove the active class from each element, we will access the current element and use the remove method, passing the active class as an argument. In our function, we need to check whether the clicked item is active or not. To do this, we will use an if condition for our item toggle variable, which will return a Boolean value. If item toggle returns false, the condition will be met, and we will add the active class to the clicked element. With this, we have completed our toggle function. Now, we need to trigger this toggle function whenever the user clicks the menu with a drop-down. To achieve this, we will iterate over items with the class as drop-down using a for-each loop. Similarly, we will attach a click event listener to each element in the items collection and trigger the toggle function. When a user clicks on a link with a drop-down, the active class is added to it. Using CSS, we need to ensure that the active drop-down menu is visible. Our drop-down functionality will only work when the sidebar is expanded. We will select the anchor tag with the drop-down and active class and target the immediate sibling element with the class sidebar drop-down. First, we will set its display to block. Similarly, we will set the max height to 15 em to allow it to expand. We will apply a transition over 200 milliseconds using a linear transition. Finally, we will set the opacity to 1 to make it fully visible. We have implemented a drop-down toggle functionality for our sidebar navigation. This ensures that only one drop-down menu is visible at a time. In addition, we need to add a drop-down icon for links that have associated drop-downs. Since the drop-down will only work when the sidebar is expanded, we will only target elements with the class as drop-down using the pseudo element after. To create an arrow indicator for sidebar links with drop-downs, we first need to create an empty content for our pseudo element. We'll set its display to inline block and apply 2px padding on all sides. Its position will be set to absolute, and we'll position the drop-down indicator 1.5 rem to the right and 1.4 rem from the top of its container. To create the arrow shape, we'll use the transform property to rotate it by 45 degrees. For smooth animation, we'll set a transition for all properties over 0.2 seconds and style its border as solid. To create a smaller arrow shape, we'll set the border width for the right and bottom to 0.75 rem. Now that we've created the drop-down arrow for when the drop-down link is in a collapsed state, we need to create the drop-down icon for when the drop-down link is expanded. We can do this by looking for the active class in the navigation menu associated with the drop-down. To make the arrow point upwards, we will use the transform property to rotate it by -135 degrees. Additionally, to achieve a smooth transition, we'll set a transition for all properties lasting 0.2 seconds. Next, to make our sidebar menus interactive when hovering over and when the drop-down menus are visible or in an active state, we will set their background color to a light, semi-transparent gray. Additionally, we will add a 3px solid border with a shade of purple. To enhance the appearance of the drop-down sidebar menu, we will target the sidebar link within the sidebar drop-down. First, we will set its position to relative and give it a padding left of 3 rem. Additionally, we'll set a transition for all properties over 0.5 seconds for a smooth animation. For the visual indication of the drop-down menus, we will add a small decorative line before each drop-down menu link. To do this, we will target the sidebar menu within the drop-down using the pseudo element before. We will set empty content and then set the height to 0.125 rem and the width to 0.375 rem for the horizontal line. The background color will be semi-transparent white and the position will be absolute. The pseudo element will be positioned 1.8 rem from the left side of its container and top 50% will center it vertically within its container. Adding transform translate y minus 50% will perfectly center the pseudo element vertically. To incorporate a smooth transition effect, we will set a transition for all properties that change, lasting 0.5 seconds. Now that we have added a small decorative line before each drop-down menu link, the next step is to make this line expand when the user hovers over the drop-down menu. To achieve this, we will target the hover state for the pseudo element before. We can simply expand its width to 1.25 rem. Finally, we will be targeting each drop-down link when it's hovered over. First, we will set its background to transparent. Likewise, we will give it a 3px solid transparent left border. The drop-down link will be positioned 3.8 rem to the left when hovered over, and its color will change to a shade of purple on hover. With this, we have come to an end for creating a sidebar using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We have just created a simple sidebar with toggle functionality, a sidebar navigation drop-down, and a fully responsive design. I hope you have learned something from this tutorial. If you like this tutorial or have any questions related to it, please feel free to leave a comment. I would be more than happy to help you.